What's the difference between Boko Haram and the YouTube Trust and Safety Team? One is a group of fanatics who seek to impose their ideology on the rest of the world by any means necessary. The other is Boko Haram. As of this moment, I am allowed to report the most recent attack by Boko Haram. And if I wanted to say that the attack had nothing to do with the religion of peace, I would be allowed to say that. I wouldn't say that because it's not true. But I would be allowed to lie on YouTube as long as the lie protects Islam from criticism. However, if I were to discuss the ideology of Boko Haram so that people could understand what motivates them to slaughter people in the name of Allah, the YouTube Trust and Safety Team would ban me for hate speech because Boko Haram jihadis are now classified as a protected group by the YouTube Trust and Safety Team. So, I'll just read the news. The Guardian reports. At least 110 people have been killed in an attack on a village in northeast Nigeria blamed on the Boko Haram jihadist group, according to the UN humanitarian coordinator in the country. And YouTube protects the killers. Maybe they should change the name of the platform to TerrorTube. At least 110 civilians were ruthlessly killed and many others were wounded in this attack, Edward Collins said in a statement after initial tolls indicated 43 and then at least 70 dead from the massacre on Saturday by suspected Boko Haram fighters. I'm still seeing different death tolls from different news sources. All that I can say with certainty is that a lot of people were killed. The incident is the most violent direct attack against innocent civilians this year, Collins said, adding, I call for the perpetrators of this heinous and senseless act to be brought to justice. The attack took place in the village of Kashobi near the main city of Maiduguri, with assailants targeting farmers on rice fields. Maiduguri is called the birthplace of Boko Haram because that's where the movement started. The Borno State Governor, Babagana Umara Zulum, attended the burial on Sunday in the nearby village of Zabarmari of 43 bodies recovered on Saturday, saying the toll could rise after such operations resumed. The assailants tied up the agricultural workers and slit their throats, according to a pro-government anti-jihadist militia. The victims were among laborers from Sokoto State in northwest Nigeria, about 1,000 kilometers, 600 miles away, who had traveled to the northeast to find work, it said. 6 others were wounded in the attack and 8 remained missing as of Saturday. Collins cited reports that several women may have been kidnapped and called for their immediate release and return to safety. The Nigerian president, Muhammadu Buhari, condemned the attack, saying the entire country has been wounded by these senseless killings. The attack took place as voters went to the polls in long-delayed local elections in Borno State. The polls had been repeatedly postponed because of an increase in attacks by Boko Haram and a rival dissident faction, ISWAP, that's Islamic State West Africa Province. The two groups have been blamed for increasing attacks on loggers, farmers, and fishermen, whom they accuse of spying for the army and pro-government militias. This last sentence is actually the most important in understanding why farmers and fishermen are being slaughtered in the name of Allah. We've seen that there are pro-government anti-jihadist militias. When Boko Haram is murdering and kidnapping and raping in your area, you contact the government or you contact the militia. But this simply paints a target on your back because now you're guilty of opposing jihad. It doesn't matter if you're technically a civilian, you're aiding the forces that stand in the way of jihad and Sharia, and the penalty is death. Well, that's about all I'm allowed to say about Boko Haram, according to the group's allies on the YouTube Trust and Safety Team. Again, if I wanted to lie, I would be allowed to say that Boko Haram jihadis slaughtering anyone who opposes jihad and Sharia has nothing to do with Islam. I would be allowed to say that Boko Haram jihadis have simply misunderstood their religion. But then I'd have to explain why jihadis misunderstand Islam in exactly the same way in Somalia, and why jihadis misunderstand Islam in exactly the same way in Iraq, and why jihadis misunderstand Islam in exactly the same way in Syria, and why jihadis misunderstand Islam in exactly the same way in Afghanistan, and why jihadis misunderstand Islam in exactly the same way in Pakistan, and so on. How can a religion that's so utterly clear be so utterly misunderstood by its most devout adherents? The answer to that question would be labeled hate speech, because according to the YouTube Trust and Safety Team, Black Lives Matter, but not nearly as much as shielding Islam from criticism.